The Golden State Warriors are once again not a good team for the third year in a row.
And not only are they not a good team, they are completely devoid of hope. It feels like their brightest days are firmly behind them.
Yeah, I think we're at the point now where we can firmly say the dynasty we once knew is dead. And honestly, they have nobody to blame but themselves and this egotistical two timelines approach.
So let's talk about how the team got here, whose fault it is, and what they could do to salvage the rest of Steph Curry's career.
So before the season started, what was your overall opinion on the Golden State Warriors and how good they'd be this year?
Before the season started, I was pretty low on the Warriors. I thought they had a very confusing roster with the departure of Klay Thompson and some interesting but not really certain offseason additions. So heading into the season, I had them firmly in like play-in territory.
Now, what did you think 2 weeks into the season after they started off like 12-3?
Now, 2 weeks into the season, I was like, oh, another classic my mistake moment. I doubted Steph Curry. Draymond Green is still a transcendent defender. All of these confusing offseason additions are actually some of the smartest, most savvy moves made in the entire NBA.
How could I doubt the genius of signing Buddy Hield? He's essentially Klay Thompson 2.0. Light years ahead as always, Bob Myers. Oh, I forgot, not Bob Myers. Mike Dunleavy.
No, I mean, it was a Bob Myers pilled move. I don't criticize you for getting those two confused. And so, yeah, the Hield signing was great. They were playing incredible basketball 2 weeks into the season, and I was in the same boat as a lot of other people where I was ready to fully embrace like a different look, but similar dominance level of the like Steph Curry Warriors, where it's like, okay, they're just finding a new way to win.
You're describing the same experience I had. Coming into the season, I picked them to be the 10th seed in the West. Actually, no. I think I picked the end. I put the Rockets at 10 and the Warriors at 11. I was fully out on them. I was like, I don't see them being good. And a week and a half into the year, my mentions on Twitter, my comments on the Deep Three were filled with Warriors fans telling me that I'm the biggest fucking idiot in the history of NBA media and I should probably go get a real job because I shouldn't be talking about basketball. They were assaulting me verbally. It was crazy. I had to admit, listen, you win some, you lose some. Clearly, they're a capable, good team. There's a reason they were a top 3 seed in the West. It seems sustainable to some degree. Y'all got it.
Hey, yeah. And that's the most important basketball is November hoops. You know? That's what everyone says. Champions are made in November. And so, yeah, the fact that you were wrong and they were circling back then, I'm sure all of that has maintained up to, I'm sure your mentions look exactly the same.
Oh, if only. If only the energy was kept. But here we are today. Currently, the team has an 18-17 record. They're currently coming off of perhaps the worst week stretch in the Warriors' history over the last decade or so. There's been lots of comments in the media where certain players are finally talking about it. I think we've reached a low point where everything that we thought before the season, it's come true. I think a lot of season left to be played. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll find some source of, I don't even know what to call it. Just some sort of momentum going into the year where maybe they can look like a decent team again. But I think we were right. And this team is currently 16th in offensive rating, 9th in defensive rating, 13th in net rating. They're firmly mid, and the conversation needs to be had. The dynasty is dead, I think it's fair to say. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's just, it sucks. I think it's fair to say that, though, at this point, where coming into this season, the only reason we're not like hammering that statement right now essentially boils down to like 3 weeks of insane Buddy Hield hoops. Yeah. That's the only reason that we are not like firmly planting the flag in the ground. The dynasty is over. And like you said, maybe there is a way to circle back and gain some momentum. Maybe they started the season so high, the pendulum swings the other way, they get real low. And by March, we're middle of the pack to the point where it's like, okay, maybe if we could get into a scenario where we could let Steph Curry be the best player in a 7-game series, we could make a little run or something like that.
How many series would he be the best player? Never mind, neither here nor there.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
You're right. There's something to sliver hold on to, but today we're going to talk about why the team sucks so bad right now, how we got here in general, because I think it's very important to chronicle the decisions that were made to get us to the point where this team looks so devoid of life around Steph Curry and making his life so difficult. A lot to unpack here, but I think we need to start from the top. What's going wrong with them right now on the court? Take away all the context. Why are they so bad? And I think that story starts and stops with their offense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's
what
bad.
I was going to say. It's just like defensively, there's a lot of cool pieces here, and I feel like that's the side of the floor they've at least been the most consistent on. Now, whether or not they're like good consistently is one thing, but they're at least like consistently trying their ass off defensively, and they've hit really high peaks on that end of the floor. But offensively, outside of Steph Curry, the help has been wishy-washy at best. There hasn't really been a consistent, not even second option. There hasn't been a consistent hierarchy of scoring where it's like night to night, you know who's probably going to take the second most shots. You know where the second most points on the team are going to come, the third most subsequently.
Yeah, second option is not something that can even be talked about because there's nothing resembling that. But you're right. Defensively, they've had peaks. When they started the season off so strong, it's because they were number 2 in defense behind the insane Oklahoma City Thunder, and now it's propelling them. But offensively, they were good to start the year, and defensively, they were amazing. They're still good defensively. They're 9th overall for the season, but offensively, it is an absolute disaster. I got these stats pulled up right here. This graphic says a broken offense because that's the only way I can goddamn describe it. They're 25th in rim volume. You know, that's been something we've seen over the past couple of years. They have nobody that drives to the rim, jump shot heavy team in the worst way.
It? Why take a 2 when you could take a 3, baby? That's the whole approach here.
I wish. 25th in rim volume and 22nd in rim efficiency. Also 27th in mid-range volume, so not a particularly good versatile shot shooting team either. 19th in transition, 30th in isolation efficiency, and 24th in pick and roll ball handler points per game. So this might seem like a bunch of random numbers. You're probably asking, why am I highlighting this specifically? Because to me, these are all the numbers that really signify your ability to dribble the basketball. It really signify how many creators you have, and that is a problem with this team. Outside of Steph Curry, and now Dennis Schroeder, who they traded for and is supposedly on the team, supposed to be playing good basketball.
He had a good game. There was a good game in there. He's probably been on the team for 8 or 9 games at this point, but you know, he had a good game in there.
Yeah. But besides Steph Curry and the concept of Dennis Schroeder they just traded for, there's no creators on this team. You look at up and down the roster, Brandon Pajemski is supposed to be the second lead ball handler after a promising rookie year. It started off so unbelievably horrible that people were saying, oh my God, was he ever good? Did I misunderstand the rookie year? Like, is this like a Ponzi scheme? Looking a little bit better these days, not as horrible, but not great. And then
he was good. Like,
at some point.
That's the most frustrating part, or one of the most frustrating parts about all of this is like, it's fine for Podziemski to not take the career arc that you expect after such a solid rookie season. It's fine if you don't like wind up getting 8 incredibly productive role player years right off the bat from Pods, but to get that from him his rookie season and then to kind of mold this team for the next year to be like, okay, well, we got that. We have Podziemski's production. We know we can rely on that. And we'll spend our assets. We'll focus our offseason moves in other areas. And then to come into this year and have it just be a complete non-factor. It's a real like speed bump right off the bat that the Warriors have really struggled to get over.
Because Pods hasn't been good. That's very clear. But on top of that, you look up and down the roster. Outside of him, Andrew Wiggins, been a very good defender, is not a big creator. You know, that's not what you're asking him. You're not getting that 2022 postseason Andrew Wiggins these days where he was really being a consistent, source of secondary buckets. Not happening.
The Maple Mamba. Yeah.
The Maple Mamba's not showing out.
Falling by the wayside. Yeah.
Klay Thompson's gone. As you mentioned, Buddy Hield filled that role for about 10 games. After that, the Buddy Hield cycle came to fruition. Everybody said it would. The Warriors fans had the ego to think maybe we beat the Buddy Hield cycle and we figured out how to optimize him. Insane ego to think that you could defeat the basketball gods that clearly have a vision for Buddy Hield, but he's back to being Buddy Hield.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's ego. Ego is a word that kind of permeates this entire like the course of the post Kevin Durant Warriors is like ego and hubris is something that you and I have discussed off camera a fair amount, where it's the approach to building this team is very much one of everybody in charge thinking they can do everything all at the same time, not really thinking they need to commit to a cohesive identity about building a roster.
Yeah, and a lot of that vision that they had was based around Jonathan Kuminga and him being the secondary star. And if you're envisioning a world where they were a good team before the season started, it's because you believe Kuminga would make a leap and be the second star that everybody that they were linked to in trade rumors, that they passed up on them is because Kuminga can fill that role himself.
Exactly.
Hasn't been the case. 16.8 points, 5 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 1.6 turnovers, below average true shooting, just a guy who's very good attacking the rim, not a good defender, not a good passer, an okay shooter, just not a guy that fills a lot of needs for your team outside of halfback dive. He's very good at halfback dive. He can get to that rim, but the game around that hasn't quite filled out, leaving them to the point where they don't have dribbling, they don't have secondary scoring, they're small, their only bigs are Kevon Looney, who can't jump anymore, and Trey Jackson-Davis, who is the worst layup maker in the goddamn league. And it's just, not enough shooting, not enough size, not enough dribbling, not enough creation, not enough everything outside of Steph Curry.
So all of these are like pretty much every aspect of basketball. They don't really have like any guys who could do that. Like you do. Yeah. Anything you want your basketball team to be able to do, they don't or can't do it. And so, but there's like, there's some dunks. Kuminga has some cool dunks, dude. It's pretty sick.
That's led to Steph Curry's life being insanely difficult. He is currently averaging 22.5 points. That's the worst of his career since 2013. And you know why? It's not because he fell off a cliff. It's not because he's incapable. He's at 62% true shooting for the year. He can still get buckets in a efficient fashion. But when everybody is double teaming you every play because nobody else around you can create anything off of those double teams, there's no world in which you can expect 37-year-old Steph Curry to look like even what he looked like last year.
Yeah, it's too much at 37. Like, it's cool for 37-year-old KD and 37-year-old LeBron. Well, 40-year-old LeBron, really. And I don't know exactly how old KD is. But it's cool for those guys because there are really translatable skills to aging when you're that big. When you're LeBron's strength, you can kind of translate from the most athletic player in the league to now a more methodical downhill bump a guy and get the layup approach to scoring. And he's transitioned really well as a jump shooter in addition to that. And then Kevin Durant, obviously, he'll be able to get the mid-range jumper off when he's 50 years old. Like, he could be a good six man until he can't walk anymore. Yeah. And so, but with Steph at his height, the handle is still incredible. And he's like a solid athlete for a 37-year-old. He's not washed by any means. It's just a lot more difficult for a guy that size to carve out a really productive offense when the defense can just be like, hey, anyone else beat us, and we're totally fine with that. Like, we are not worried about Podziemski self-creation. We're not worried about Wiggins ISOs. If Kuminga gets downhill, it is what it is. Steph Curry's not going to beat us. To endure that for an entire regular season, it already seems like it's really hard. We're not even halfway through. So when it gets like March, April, it's just a huge offensive burden for a guy that age.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that he's taking a big step back. He's probably taking some step back naturally. He is 37. But it's the fact that to go with that small step back, they've made his life a whole lot harder. It compounds with it. And you're just asking too much from a guy. Like, over the last 3 years, I feel like they've asked more and more of him instead of less and less, like you'd expect. Like, even the Lakers, who don't have a ton around LeBron James, at least they got Anthony Davis.
Yeah, meanwhile, at least they have like Austin Reeves, or like they just have pieces where it's like, okay, theoretically, we have made a move in pursuit of lessening LeBron James' regular season burden, and that hasn't always panned out, but they're doing things like that. With Curry, it's hard to point to the moves that they've made and for sure give that explanation because of the two timelines thing that we talked about.
There you go. It's not, you said it's hard to point to ways in which they'd make Steph Curry's life harder. I think it's easy to point to ways in which they've made Steph Curry's life demonstrably worse. They have failed Steph Curry on all fronts. And that is what we have to talk about today. We all understand why they're bad. The question is, how did we fucking get here? How did we get to the point where the roster around Steph Curry is this miserable that he's going to the media and he's saying, I want to be here for my whole career, but I don't know. I'm running out of time. It's getting difficult. How did we get to the point where the most loyal man in the NBA is having second thoughts and voicing them to the media?
Yeah, it's been a tough, 6 years at this point, really. If we think about like when the KD departure happened, I think that's really the moment the clock starts ticking on this current era, is navigating KD leaving and then all of the stuff that comes afterwards. I have 4 points that I wrote down just in terms of like real pinpoints on the roadmap to getting here. And I think
these 4 points to describe essentially how the two timelines idea failed, right? How this whole point of trying to build towards the future and the current at the same time, which is a thing they really, really marketed the shit out of. Joe Lacob made it clear that it's his vision as the owner of the Warriors to never have to tank because you build for the future and now at the same exact time. That kind of, that idea colors every single thing they did. So these 4 points you have kind of explain where that plan failed.
Yeah. It's, I'm going back to that word hubris. That's really how I feel when I look at it. Just the idea that you pick up one of probably the 15 best players of all time, and then you're like, we could maximize him, but at the same time, you know, this Kuminga guy's pretty good. And so the first point I wrote down was missing on the James Wiseman pick because right after KD leaves, they essentially have a wash of a season. They tank. Clay got hurt in that finals, obviously. I don't remember exactly how many games Steph Curry played that year. It was not a ton. And D'Angelo Russell was running the offense for a lot of the season. And so they end up with the second overall pick. That is an incredibly valuable asset for anybody in the league. You'd love to get the second overall pick, but specifically for a team that just lost one of the best players in the world and is looking to retool a pretty depleted roster. The second overall pick, you could do a lot of stuff with that. And I think they were faced with a choice. A, use the pick and draft somebody who you hope will hope a young player will be ready to contribute to a championship run within a few seasons, or B, move off of the pick, move it in exchange for serious role player capital that you can use to flesh out the rest of your roster. Even if you don't get an all-star back for that second overall pick, moving it definitely would have given you a more well-rounded team.
Yeah, I think a number 2 overall pick is an incredibly rare thing to have when you're coming off of multiple championships and you've already solidified yourself as the dynasty that defined your era of NBA hoops. So to have that opportunity, it's really hard to fuck that up in such a monstrous fashion. Like you mentioned, they have different options. Almost all those options are good. Yes. The only bad one that you could have possibly done in that situation is drafting James Wiseman, a guy who was viewed as a top pick in the draft. He was in that, but it wasn't a surprise that he didn't work out. A lot of smart people at that time doubted his ability to actually be good after he didn't get a chance to really show anything in his college experience. He only played 2 games. There was a lot of people that were saying, I don't think this guy actually has the IQ, the footwork, the technique, whatever it takes to be this star big they want him to be. That wasn't a minority opinion. You know, that was a commonly talked about thing.
Yeah. That was something that was thrown out a lot. And it's tough because even if I give Wiseman as much leniency as I can, and I try to be as positive, I put as positive of a spin as I can from the Warriors front office perspective, he was still a project player. He was still a guy that you were like, his tools rock. He's one of the most athletic 7-footers in the league from the jump, and we've seen him flash different skills in terms of like mobility and things that you would want from a really modern big man that make him a promising pick. But as far as like he will contribute to a deep playoff run within 2 or 3 years, the second he was drafted, I think a lot of people were like, that's probably not going to happen. And if he does, it would be in a very limited role.
Exactly. The issue isn't, I made it sound like Wiseman was a lost cause immediately, and that shouldn't be the case. Every draft pick has a amount of risk. They have a ceiling. They have a floor. You decide if you think your team can get the best version of him and get closer to that ceiling. So perhaps I'm being unfair, acting like there was no world in which he'd be good. Hindsight. But the point of this section is the idea of picking the project, like you said, while you have Steph Curry and trying to balance both, thinking that you have the guys in place that can win now, and this guy that you're picking is simply 4 or 5 years in the future. That is the start of this 2 timelines thing by picking the project, like you said.
Yes.
And that's where the arrogance starts. Because to be in such a place of privilege where you can add on to a team that is coming off of 3 titles in a few years.
3 titles in 4, oh, it's so crazy, dude. Yeah.
The fact that you can do that and then think, I want a player who'll be good 5 years from now. You're from the jump. You're signaling to your players, to Steph Curry, to Andre Iguodala, to Draymond Green, to Klay Thompson, to everybody else as part of this core as already existing. You're no longer the priority.
The priority is not the dynasty. Yes, exactly. Yes. That's how I feel. And
I'm glad you pinpointed this as the first point, because that's when it became very clear that you're not everything anymore.
Yeah, and it's tough because when we talk about 2 timelines, it is such a tantalizing prospect to draft because like if Wiseman hits, then the foundation for the two timelines concept, it's there. I don't think they execute on the rest of it, and I don't think it really helps all that much with them like winning additional championships in the Steph Curry era. But if Wiseman is a like spectacular lottery pick, I can at least see the argument for the two timelines thing being some sort of success, and it gave them false confidence that they could do that.
You said it's tantalizing. False confidence is the perfect fucking word, because what happened is Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, built this team. He bought the team in the late 2000s and immediately built them to be in a place where they're a dynasty, like right away. He got into the league and knew nothing but success. His big tech brain, 5-head, light years ahead brain said, I built this shit brick by brick. This is because of me. And he said, say I can't do it again. And he made it his mission to do it again. Because like you said, that's a tantalizing prospect for someone that has tech brain and thinks expansion, more profits for the shareholders every year. We got to keep going up and up and up. Never take a dip, never take a downside, because that's how tech bros think, and he is the ultimate tech bro. But the reality is he did not build the dynasty. Steph Curry did. Jerry West took Steph Curry and brought them the ability to do this. It wasn't some amazing decisions he made. It was simply the fact that Steph Curry was here to make this all happen.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's kind of like Tim Conley drafts Jokic, right? It's like Tim Conley thinking, oh, it wasn't luck that I hit the 41st pick of the draft. I got like literally one of the best offensive players of all time. That's because I'm so skilled as a GM. I can repeat that performance. That's what I think of when I think at him looking at like getting Draymond Green, where he got him, a transformative defender that was one of like the pillars of the dynasty. One of the only reasons they were competitive for that long was because they could consistently field incredible defenses with Draymond Green. And so to be like, yeah, we could find more guys like that. We could do that again. We could figure this out again. And even Clay, it's like Clay was a late first rounder, mid first rounder. Yeah. To get one of the greatest shooters of all time at that position is
profound
insane.
Arrogance. Profound arrogance to say, watch me do it again.
Yeah, to think I can repeat it. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's such, owners are billionaires. They have main character syndrome. There was a tweet earlier this week going around of Tom Gore, the guy who owns the Pistons, has a poster of him next to the players in the locker room as if he's part of the squad. I bet Joe Lacob doesn't even have a poster. He has a statue erected of himself outside the Warriors Stadium, ready to be built as soon as he sells the team. But perfect timing before this episode, before we recorded this, a big article came out, several articles actually that I mentioned earlier where Steph Curry was talking about the team. There was also an editorial article at SF Gate by Alex, I don't know how to say his last name, Sekoik. I feel like I'm butchering that. Sorry to Alex.
Sorry, Alex. We know you're listening.
Sorry, dude. There's a couple of really good sections from this I want to read out to you that just perfectly explain the arrogance of Joe Lacob and how we started this from this Wiseman pick. It says, the second timeline that Joe Lacob is so fond of starts when Steph Curry is gone, not a moment before. Lacob, an otherwise intelligent man who genuinely loves the game of basketball, still can't seem to grasp this. It's the VC brain rot, a belief that because of his success and business acumen, he can break reality to his will. This bizarre belief that people outside the Bay Area will still give a damn about the Golden State Warriors 5 seconds after Curry retires, that the franchise will perpetually be the most valuable NBA team, that the brand is strong enough to withstand anything. It's not. The brand is Steph Curry and the magic that trails in his wake. There's no magic in media deals or resplendent courtside lounges that come with a personal budget.
Damn. Resplendent. Oh,
I've never said that before.
Yeah. No.
Hey, they barred him up. They barred him up. This is so true. He thinks it's about something that is not. It is about Steph Curry, and it always will be.
Yeah. And so I feel like that goes hand in hand with my second point pretty well. Just a general holding of draft assets. Even ignoring holding the Wiseman pick, not moving it for whatever role player package, all-star package you can come up with back then. But the rest of their draft capital, it's pretty uncommon for a franchise built around one of the best players of all time in the twilight years of his career to have as many picks as the Warriors still do.
Yeah.
The only first rounder that they're sending out, like in the foreseeable future, you hear like every team is like they only have their 2031 first rounder left to trade. The only first rounder the Warriors are even sending out is a heavily protected 2030 first rounder that I think if it doesn't convey ends up being a second round pick. And so they have 2025 first, 26 first, 27 first. They have all of these picks that most teams probably would have used to surround the greatest shooter of all time, one of the greatest offensive engines of all time, the end years of a dynasty. They would have used those picks to bolster the roster with like better players and more talent. And instead,
you mentioned point one is James Wiseman, right? 2020 draft is the first inflection point. Point two is definitely the continuing of that greed, specifically a 2021 draft, right? Like it's immediately the next year. It was very, very rumored and debated. They already got Wiseman in the door. They already had Poole in the door. Should they trade those 2021 picks? I think it's important to specify that that's the draft. That's the second point, because you could argue that, sure, Wiseman was worth taking a bet on. It's the second pick. You want to inject that young talent. But the next year when you had 2 lottery picks, 7 and 14, and you still decide to take both young guys and not make a single win now trade, that's when the writing on the wall became like even more apparent.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Just looking back at like everybody post Poole or post Wiseman pick, it's so their first rounders go Podziemski, probably a good player, even though he's having a down year. I'll give him good player label. Patrick Baldwin the year before that, miss. I don't think he's really going to contribute. Kuminga the year before that, probably a good player that you're also probably in position to either let walk or overpay. Like we'll get to him in a second. And then Moses Moody, minutes vary wildly. You could argue he's a good player when he plays, but for whatever reason, Kerr hasn't really felt consistently enough to give him minutes. And so you just look at all these assets that you've held and you look at the contributions that you're going to get from them last year, this year, next year, the year after that. There's nobody here that you're like, oh shit, we could really lean on this guy in a reliable way outside of maybe Kuminga, who is in a precarious spot as far as like the franchise go, which we could get to later. I'll touch on that further down the road.
Okay, so obviously, inflection point 1, you draft Wiseman, you kick off the 2 timelines bullshit. Inflection point 2, you get another draft, another opportunity to maybe play a little win now, throw the veterans a bone, trade for at least one win now guy. You don't do it.
We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
You don't do it. You tell them, shut up, Andre Iguodala, go make a podcast. Fuck out of here. You tell them you don't care. You don't want to win. What happens next? What's the third inflection point that brought us to this road of being so bad?
Now, this one's tough because I will put this squarely on the shoulders of Draymond Green. Panic selling on Jordan Poole and in swapping him for 58 games of Chris Paul. It's really aging horribly.
Exactly.
The second the move was made, it was pretty murky waters. You were like, we don't know what Poole's going to be. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. We have to trade him because Draymond Green punched him in the face. It's an irreparable rift in the organization. If Jordan Poole stays here long term, we're going to have to pick between these guys. And as time has gone on, it's become clearer that Chris Paul's already gone. The Warriors are getting nothing from him. And even though you did give this big contract to Poole, who's going to be making like around $30 million a year for a couple more seasons, he is producing in a way in Washington that is not only impressive on a bad team, he's doing a lot of things, excelling at things that would alleviate Steph Curry's burden specifically.
Jordan Poole currently has the highest pull-up three-point percentage in the NBA this year. He looks pretty good after looking bad last year, but he looks fully good again. And you mentioned 58 games of Chris Paul. This is the third inflection point on your list. This is the number one most important. You can get away with having picked those young guys, deciding to do two timelines. Maybe it'll work eventually. Maybe we can trade those guys eventually. Who knows? You got Jordan Poole in the door. He's one of the only ones that hit. When you won in 2022, it was because Jordan Poole gave you 20 points per game out of nowhere, and he really gave you enough juice along with what Klay Thompson brought coming after injury, along with what Andrew Wiggins gave you in his career year. There was just enough there to let you, catch lightning in a bottle and have a chance. The fact that you had to lose that for nothing because of Draymond Green's behavior, we'll call it that, because of the fuck shit that he did, and the fact that it got leaked.
That's just Draymond, guys. Crazy. Every time I'm watching the Warriors broadcast and Draymond elbows somebody in the head, that's a good hard foul. That's just Draymond.
The fact that led to you having to get rid of this guy for nothing, and more importantly, the fact that you did that trade, which in the moment I said was a stupid trade. I didn't think it made sense to get a package of a mediocre pick and Chris Paul back. the idea of playing Chris Paul on the bench or next to Steph Curry to me was insane. I don't know how that could lead to a better team. But he was an expiring deal worth $30 million. That at least has value. The single moment that ruined this team and has them to the point where they can't compete anymore is because they let Chris Paul walk in free agency for nothing. Last year, they were linked to a lot of big trades. That's a big expiring salary that you could easily trade for key pieces that can last for the next several years, get you in the point this year where you have multiple creators in the team. You know, they were trying to get LeBron James with that. Obviously, the Lakers weren't going to trade him, but they were rumored to do that. There was reports that the Bulls tried to give them Zach LaVine plus a pick for that Chris Paul salary, and they said no, which is outlandish. There was many paths they could do to get salaries on the books now that could be used in the future, and they chose to do literally nothing and lose that entire asset for nothing and get you to the point where now where the only tradable salary you have on your team for a big guy like a Jimmy Butler or whatever is Andrew Wiggins, who you don't want to move. It was complete asset malpractice.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't remember exactly if it was like officially expiring. I feel like they waived him and maybe he had like one more. Like, I feel like he would have played out 2024-25 as a $30 million contract and then been expiring this year. But that's besides the point. You are still overarching point correct in that, like,
I think $4 million was guaranteed on it, so it was a almost not guaranteed final year deal.
Okay,
so
damn.
It was negligible. It was negligible for the final year.
And so regardless, I mean, to have it come off the books and not really. I mean, who did they sign with like money this year? Fucking Kyle Anderson and stuff. Not that it was a stacked free agent class.
No, they didn't get anybody with it. They dipped out of the tax, so they got a full mid-level exception where they got DeAnthony Melton. That's what they got.
Oh, damn.
But, yeah, so to be fair, they couldn't meet the tax.
To be fair, DeAnthony Melton was hooping, but he got hurt, and regardless, it's not like a game-changing move to get DeAnthony. It's not like adding Zach LaVine or something. And so, it's just complete malpractice to sell on Poole, who was really looking like, I mean, he did have the down year, the first year of the big contract. I understand being nervous about like giving a guy that kind of money and then not immediately seeing the production. But to do the two timelines thing, and this is where I think they wouldn't have sold if Draymond Green didn't punch him, because if you're really committed to that two timelines idea, then you're probably okay with like powering through a down year from Poole. If you really believe in everything, you're like, okay, it's fine. We're not going to win the title with this guy this year, whatever, but we can at least move forward with him. Draymond made that impossible. They had to sell. They sold really low, and then they sold the guy they sold low on for essentially nothing. So exactly. It's just mismanagement, time after time.
So that's 3 inflection points. You said there's one more.
Yes.
What is the last one that got us where we are today?
I feel like they held too long on Jonathan Kuminga. And this is not me saying Jonathan Kuminga won't ever be a good player or isn't. I mean, I don't think he's great right now or hasn't ever played high-level basketball that could justify holding on to him in some of these trades that he was drawn up in or whatever. But I think at this point, his value probably peaked spring or like late winter of last year when they were throwing around, what if we trade him for Markkanen is the guy that like I really wish they would have gotten.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. The moment specifically is summer 2024 and all of the almost trades they made. They made sure it was in the news. Every reporter knew it, that they were real close to trading for several stars. They almost got Paul George. The Clippers didn't want to comply. They almost got the Jazz. Danny Ainge was on bullshit. They almost got so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and failed to get any of those guys in reality. The amount of pump faking and face saving that was done through the media to say they're trying real hard, but we just can't do it. All these teams are asking too much. Is ridiculous.
Everyone else is the problem. You know, everyone we try to do a deal with, they're just ridiculous and they expect way too much. It's not us. So don't
they want good players. What do you want? I only want to give up bad ones. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I have all these guys. You don't want any of my bad players? Are you stupid? And so it's tough that like the Kuminga for Markkanen deal is really hard. And now just holding on to Kuminga for this long, you're at this point where he's up for an extension. He's up for money that like future All-Stars get, really. I think he's like up for comparable money to Franz Wagner, if I believe. And that's too much money to give him. And so you're
too
torn
much money
between
to give him whenever the issue is he has a specific skill set that he needs to be a power forward because he's a slasher and needs to have open paint. So he either needs to play next to a stretch five, which could be Draymond, or you have to play Draymond at center. You know, you can't really play Kuminga at small forward because he can't defend well enough. And if you put Draymond at the 4 and a true 5 like TJD there or Kevon Looney, your spacing's going to be terrible. You're not going to be mobile enough on the perimeter. It won't work. So the only way to maximize Jonathan Kuminga is to play Draymond full-time at the 5, which doesn't maximize Draymond. It asks a lot of him physically as he gets older. He wants to play power forward next time. So it's essentially impossible to maximize Kuminga and Draymond. That's not a good situation to put $25 million a year into.
Yeah. I mean, when you put it that way, yeah, like that's the perfect phrasing. It's like, hey, your third, fourth best player, really on a lot of nights, second best player, he can't function with this guy the way that your roster is currently constructed. And you either since you didn't want Lauri Markkanen, since you didn't want Zach LaVine, now you get to pay the guy that he can't function with $25 million.
Yeah, that's your only move. That's your last move, and it's one that doesn't optimize anybody. And by not doing anything, like you said, not getting Lauri Markkanen, who would have been an obvious, amazing fit. Him and Draymond give you so much size and versatility, shooting, ball handling, cutting. He'd be a glove-in-hand fit with this offense. Now you get to the point where Curry's making comments like this, where they lose 2 games in a row and their offense is terrible. They ask him, how could the Warriors improve their offense? He says, honestly, I have no idea. It's been back-to-back no-shows. And how could he have an idea? There is no talent on the roster, and he knows they could have got it. You know, Draymond Green was on a podcast saying that he recommended to the front office that they don't go all in for the star because he didn't want to give up all the young guys either. He didn't think it would be smart. I don't know if Steph Curry thinks that. I think Steph Curry probably would have liked to have Lauri Markkanen or probably would have liked to have Paul George.
Yeah.
Which Paul George stinks now, so let me not even say that.
Yeah. The Paul George move, low-key, they dodged a bullet. Like that's... I felt like the second he got that big contract, I was like, that's too much money. But Lowry is one you could point to. That's when we're talking about moves you could point to be like, we did this solely in pursuit of making the final years of Steph more competitive and easier on Steph Curry. The Lauri Markkanen move is one you can point to and say, that's the only reason we did it. There's not really a 2 timelines thing involved. We're not worried about the post-Steph era. We are only worried about helping the most important figure in the history of our franchise to be as competitive as he can be and as happy as he can be in the final years of his career. And the fact that they didn't do it, you know, you could say, oh, well, they asked for Podziemski. Ainge wanted Podziemski, and that's just too much for the all-star in Markkanen or whatever. And that's fine if you feel that way, but you do have to...
No, it's not. It's not fine.
You have to deal with the fact that now Steph is like this. And, like... Yeah, like those directly correlate with each other.
100%.
It's really frustrating as someone. I don't care about the Warriors. I do want to see Steph thrive though, and it's frustrating to see like it go down this way.
Exactly. Everything you said is true. They're at this point now for all the 2 timeline stuff you mentioned. For these four big moments, really paint how we got here. And to sign off this chapter of the video, I had another quote from this SFGate article referencing this idea of doing it again after Curry. He says, all right, but there's nothing inevitable about recreating a team like the Dynasty at their peak. And definitely nothing inevitable about another Steph Curry. The one you have now is the only one you're ever going to get. He's given his entire professional life to this team. Forget, please, once and for all, about the murky, hypothetical future. Do right by him today. It's your duty. This is exactly how I feel. You have an obligation to Steph Curry. You don't want him to leave, right? You want him to retire a Golden State Warrior. You have an obligation to put the best product in front of him and maximize every single year he's on your roster. And through these 4 gigantic fuck-ups, I think you've shown that they absolutely have not done that.
Yeah, it's sad. And it's true. The Warriors have never moved like they are aware Steph Curry is the best player that will ever play for their organization.
Exactly.
They've never moved like that.
They move like they think he's a system product and they can do it again. They'll go find another Steph. And that is simply devoid of reality. It's arrogant. It's egotistical. It's everything you could possibly describe a billionaire with. It all aligns.
Damn, this is pissing me off. like when we started the episode, I was like, you know, it's sad that this is happening to Steph. But the more I'm talking about it, I'm like, he's generational, and you're not doing anything for him. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it makes me very mad. I agree. As a Lakers fan, it pisses me off. But okay,
yeah,
that's chapter 2 of the video. That's every reason why they suck. So now let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about this team right now as constructed. They have no chance of winning a championship right now, I believe. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
They're firmly mid. I guess let's say they make a small trade on the margins. I guess there's a world in which it could try to catch lightning in a bottle again and do a 2022. So what I want to do right now is I want to gauge them against the other mid across the league. Let's have a mid off.
Let's have a mid off. Let's get it, baby.
Good old fashioned, good old Western mid off.
Yeah, I'm
what
down.
I want to do is I'm going to list the Warriors and another team. And you're going to tell me which one has a better chance of winning the title this year.
Okay.
Let's just see how they stack up against the mid right now based on what they've given us to look at. So first of all, who has a better chance of winning a championship again? The Lakers or the Warriors?
The Lakers. Just because Anthony Davis is probably, of everybody involved with either team, I think Anthony Davis will be the best among that group for the longest. Yeah. And then I think the Lakers have a better constructed roster, and there's at least like hope with JJ Redick. He's like, new coach. Anything's possible with a new coach.
Yeah, it's a blank check. He can be anything. He can be Pat
exactly.
Riley.
Exactly.
Those Rui Hachimura, those don't grow on trees.
Oh my God. Yeah. If we want to talk about players that franchises are like, you can't have him. He's too important. Rui, he gets thrown out there a lot.
Yeah. Listen, I don't necessarily believe the Lakers are going to do anything either, but you have to go with the team that at least has a pulse. The Warriors right now are the opposite. The Warriors are anemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got to bust out the clear. I don't know what that's called, but like that's what the Warriors need.
Clear. You sound like a SpongeBob character.
Yeah.
My leg.
My leg. That's funny. Oh man.
Okay. Well, let's go to the other conference. The Warriors or the Bucks?
Oh my God, the Bucks. Giannis would be the best player in a series matchup. Giannis would be the best player in 95% of the series that he plays, if we're being honest. Dame looks mostly back. The Bucks just have a ton more upside, and the floor is way higher to me.
Who's more frustrating to watch miss layups, Bobby Portis or Trace Jackson Davis?
Oh my God, Bobby Portis, because people act like he's crazy. I'm not going to say people act like he's good because he's a professional basketball player and I'm a podcaster and he can smoke me any day of the week. But watching people be like, they can't move Bobby Portis. He's their sixth man. He's integral. I'm like, guys, they could move Bobby Portis. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, 2024 or 2025 Doc Rivers versus Steve Kerr is insane. I guess we're going with Doc Rivers' team.
Yeah, oh my God, I guess. Yeah, that's the power of Giannis, man. He makes me overlook Doc.
All right, what about the Warriors or the Timberwolves? Two of the biggest disappointments of the year.
I'll still go with the Wolves just because I think and like I don't think they'll win the championship. I just think there's a world where you could argue Anthony Edwards could play 4 playoff series and be really good the entire time. I think even that barrier to entry for the Warriors, could Steph do that with what they're asking of him offensively and 50 more games of this offensive load? I don't think so.
Betting on Randall and Gobert front court? Oof.
It's not going to happen. I'm not like you're putting me in a rock and a hard place. You're asking me like, yeah, it's dumb, but I would go Wolves.
Yeah, I'm asking you to pick the electric chair of the firing squad right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Firing squad. Let's go quick, man. Come on. The Warriors, they're zapping me.
Okay. The Warriors or the Nuggets?
Come on. The Nuggets, get us out of these talks. It's messed up. I'll go the Nuggets very soundly. Jokic, I feel like is still the best. Yeah. Jokic is still the best player in the world. They have a better built roster. It's not great. The bench is not good. They pay a lot of people money that they shouldn't. Jamal Murray's been underwhelming. Aaron Gordon hasn't played. And through all of that, it's still firmly the Nuggets for me. It's just like, yeah, these are two separate tiers.
You just a lot of players who aren't good.
It's not. But I'm not comparing them to the Celtics or the Cavs or the Thunder. I'm comparing them to the Warriors. And so, yeah, I'll go Nuggets.
I don't enjoy watching my favorite player be sold night to night. But at least I can lay my hat down tonight and say we're not the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, it's tough.
The road, it could be worse. But okay, last one. The Warriors or the Clippers with everything in the air about Kawhi Leonard's health?
I will go... I'll go Clippers. I guess I won't go Warriors for a single one, I guess. I think it's more likely. Sweep. I think it's more likely that like you get healthy Kawhi for 4 playoff series than like I can't even imagine somebody on this roster really stepping up to have a crazy playoff run. That's one of the big problems with me.
The funny part is healthy Kawhi is the friends we made along the way. That is a concept, not a person. Mm-hmm. But I still agree. I'm still going to take that bet over whatever the Warriors bet is.
Yeah. It's because like the framework of like every night I watch the Clippers and I'm like, Norm Powell, 25 points per game. He's incredibly efficient. James Harden is doing like the volume scoring playmaking thing as best as he can at this age. They're an incredible defense. They're grinding out all of these wins. It would be sick. Like there's a Kawhi Leonard sized hole at the middle of it where if that concept could arrive, then yeah, I wouldn't want to play him in a series.
Zubac would change Warriors fans' lives. They would feel like they just unearthed Hakeem Olajuwon if they had Zubac on their team.
Holy shit. Dude, Draymond and Zoo would actually be a nasty defensive front court.
Filthy.
Yeah. But it ain't happening, so I'm going Clippers.
I did all the playing teams I could. It looks like we're not getting any hope. The Warriors are currently the middest of the mid.
Yeah. But, hey, I don't know. The odds for a lot of those teams aren't good. So Warriors fans don't feel too bad.
Yeah. Okay, well, we know they stink. We know they stink because their owner made all the wrong decisions and got them to a place where they had no choice but to stink. And we know they stink more than all the rest of the stink around the league. So now the question is, for the fourth chapter of this video, what now? What can they do about this? What are the options at their disposal to pick a direction and try to salvage whatever is left of the years they have with Steph Curry?
I don't know. I guess it's probably through the trade market. I think when you ask this question, you're really asking, do you think that any of the young guys they've accrued can step up and play like meaningful postseason basketball? And I think that even if one of them do it, even if you get Kuminga to do it, will Podziemski do it at the same time? Probably not. If Podziemski does it, will you be able to lean on Moody for 15 minutes a game? I don't know. And so I think I would probably say that if they make a change, if the vibes get corrected in Golden State, it would be on the trade market.
Yeah. I think they have three options in front of them. One, you go all in. You get a second star. It will be a lower tier star, but you can get somebody that has made an all-star game in Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, whoever it may be. You're giving up a lot of salary. You're really destroying whatever depth you have that was so tantalizing at the start of the season. But there's a world in which you get Steph Curry and you give him hope. You give him something to latch onto that this can give us enough talent to make something happen. Because right now we can't do that. That's option one. They've shown us nothing to believe they would like to do option one.
Yeah, no, it's been crazy. Yeah,
option two
it's not happening.
Option two is you go partially in. You go and you make a small move to just give us some crumbs. And you're still doing your two timelines thing. You're still prioritizing life after Steph Curry, but you give them something. We like to call this the Nikola Vucevic option, where you give them a player. You give them one of these centers in the NBA.
Yeah, I fucking guess. Hey, Vooch, hey, man, that's a 40% three-point shooter. You know how many bigs? That's not that many. You know, that's a double-double machine. Yeah,
dude.
It's a dude. It's a guy. He. I guess he plays. He's out there.
I think this would make Warriors fans happy. I think they would take what they can get at this rate.
Yo, if you're a Warriors fan and you got happy about this, I think you need to take a big step back and look in the mirror. No one should be happy if their team pulls the trigger on a Vucevic trade. I'll say that much. I think if they do it, it's fine. If they did the Jimmy or the Ingram trade or one of those bigger ones, I think there's a world where if we redid the who I think would have a better chance to win the title, maybe they beat some of those teams. Maybe I feel better about the Warriors than the Clippers if I get to see 3 weeks of them with Jimmy Butler or something.
Maybe.
But if they do the Vooch trade, none of that. I promise you, I will not feel different about them in a month and a half.
Okay. Option 3, you do nothing. And you continue to waste Steph Curry. And to me, I don't think Steph Curry is going to request a trade. I don't think that would happen. I think he wants to stay a Warrior for life. But I think if you do nothing, I think he's going to have his hand forced, and he's going to have to make some kind of power play this summer. He's going to have to make some kind of demand, and some shit is going to shake. I don't know which way it's going to shake, but something is going to happen. Or you're driving him to an early retirement. Something will have to change because Steph Curry can't deal with this for 2 more years.
Yeah, and we're giggling about the quotes now. But Steph Curry doesn't talk. Steph Curry doesn't go to the media and say, I don't know how he fixed things. He doesn't say things that like come across as like, oh, Steph's a little upset. It's never been that way. He's always been like a model superstar in that regard. And so the fact that you are now getting sound bites of him being like, I don't know how to fix things. I don't know how much time I have left. The clock is ticking. It could be nothing. For some players, that is nothing. But for Steph, it's more than we've ever gotten in his career. And so I do feel like it's at least a reason to keep an eye on the situation and to be like, hey, if they're just skidding, if they're just like for the rest of the year below 500 hoops, and for the last 2 games, he's averaged like 30 points, 0 assists. Nobody else can make a shot. And so if that stuff continues, I will continue like watching and listening to him in the media being like, ugh. We're trying our best night to night.
Everything is something. Yeah. With these superstars at this level, everything is something. Nothing is nothing. He said this for a reason. This is as close to a demand as you're going to get from Steph Curry. And I think you might just end up losing him to an early retirement, if anything.
Yeah. It's like Tim Duncan being like, yeah, I don't know what Pop was thinking on that play call. Like, it's like someone, just like you would never expect it from Steph Curry. And it's not like a betrayal. Because we spent the last hour being like, oh, they're not doing justice by him. And I stand by that. It's just really disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, well, last section of this video before we get out of here. Let's talk specifically about these moves. Let's play a little bit of NBA deal or no deal. I'm going to list you some NBA trades, and you tell me if you're running the Warriors, would you accept these trades if you were Mike Dunleavy?
All right, let's go.
Trade 1, deal 1. Would you trade Kyle Anderson, Kevon Looney, Gui Santos, and 2 second-round picks for Nikola Vucevic?
Oh, Gui Santos. That's tough. I think he's a deal
breaker
there. I mean, none of the players that you listed moved me much at all. I'll do it. I'll say I'll do it. You know what? Fine. I know I just shat all over Vucevic, but like, it feels like something needs to change, and you can at least point to a move that you made at that point.
Yeah, it's something. It gives them. It's not ideal, but at least it's a center. It's one of the centers of all time. They bring into the team right now. They don't have. It would really break your heart to get rid of Kevon Looney. You don't want to do that, but something's got to change.
And that's fair. I'm not emotionally invested in this team. I don't have fond memories of Kevon Looney brutalizing Sabonis on the boards in the first round or whatever. I don't really care that much about moving on from him, but I understand from the team perspective, fan favorite, been around for forever, would be a tough emotional departure. So, yeah.
I think there's a good chance this one actually happens. But okay. Deal number 2. Would you this one's funny. Actually, wrong one. Deal number 2. Would you trade Andrew Wiggins, Dennis, Kyle Anderson, the 2027 first-round pick, and 1 second-round pick for Jimmy Butler?
God damn. Okay.
So you're giving up a lot.
Run me through the package one more time. I got distracted when you said Dennis Schroeder. I was like, they just moved for him. Give me the package
by the deadline.
Okay.
Wiggins, Dennis, Kyle Anderson, 1 first-round pick, and 1 second-round pick for Jimmy Butler.
I'll do it. I'll say I'll do
That's
it.
a perfect reaction.
Just because I don't care. But like, you will. This is a move that if you make it, you are probably comfortable scraping into the playoffs and believing that you're going to get playoff Jimmy Butler, and he could pair with Steph Curry and the rest of your team in a way that you could, if you win that first round playoff series, if you're a lower seed, then you really have faith you could do whatever you want because you're overcoming one of the best teams in the conference.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all to lose Andrew Wiggins, who's by far your best premier defender. You're asking a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler to go out there and strap up the best wing on the other team, which is not something I really want from him, especially if I want playoff Jimmy offensive production.
Yeah.
But this might be a deal you got to do because you can't look Steph Curry in the face and tell him we're doing nothing. You might have to appease him and get a star. This might be something that they're forced to do. Otherwise, they're going to really, really lose the morale of their best player.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can do that. Maybe that's what they've been doing this whole time. It's just Steph. Could I have a help? And they're just like, fuck you.
Can I get a smidgen of talent, please? Just
stop asking. Pods is in the gym, okay? It's coming, please.
We got Jimmy Butler at home.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
I'll lose my mind if they tell Curry to go fuck himself and get him nobody.
Yeah. Who's left? What's the extra deal?
Last one, deal 3. This is a long shot. In a world where the Phoenix Suns blow it up, would you do this trade for Kevin Durant? Andrew Wiggins, Dennis, Jonathan Kuminga, Pajemski, and 2 first-round picks, all in for bringing Kevin Durant back.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'll do it 100%. Just to see Draymond and Kevin Durant play again as like, it's like, I don't even know. It's like running into your ex at like the store or something. And it's like, oh God, I don't want this.
And then you got to be engaged to her for like at least a year-long contract. You got to be with her every day.
Yeah, that's insane. But I would do it. And Kevin Durant has genuinely been an MVP level player when he's been healthy. It would be, of everyone we've listed, the most regular season help for the final 40-ish whatever games of this year compared to like Butler or Vucevic. But
now, does it make their future worse? Yes. Do I give a single fuck about their future after Steph Curry? Do I think the Jonathan Kuminga and Pajemski-led team is going to do anything after Steph Curry? No, not even a little bit. Go get Kevin Durant, make some shit happen. Let's get back to being a great team by any means necessary.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I guess the moral of this story is that the thing you just said, where you asked yourself if you care about the Kuminga Pajemski Warriors, and it was like clearly no. Everyone listening, the smart answer there was no. The Warriors front office has asked themselves that question every offseason for half a decade, and every time they've come away. And even though the future had the ceiling on the Kuminga thing, the 2 timelines thing has been lower, they've still gone, yeah, we can pull it off. We can do it. Let's keep pushing.
Actually, I care about that more than anything in this world. So let's keep them.
Yeah. I'm going to do it no matter what all the time. So
55 Kumingas, 55 Pajemskis, 55 TJTs.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, sorry, Steph fans. Sorry, Golden State fans. It's a bit of a downer episode, I suppose, but we got to talk about what we got to talk about, and you guys should be better if you don't want to be in the news.
Yeah, I think Warriors fans probably agree with everything you said. There's no way to be optimistic right now. Everything
We've
in life
never
is
been
misery.
wrong.
All you know is hell and fire and flame in your life.
Yeah.
There's no upside in the future. You're going down a dark path of NBA purgatory. Your life will be bad for the next decade as long as you attach your fandom to the Golden State Warriors. And yeah, I have nothing else better to sell you.
Nah, I think they'll probably draft another, like the new greatest shooter of all time. I think they'll probably just have another draft where they get Clay, Draymond, and Steph.
Could you imagine if they do?
Hey, you know what? We're wrong then. We're wrong. Even though I still would not consider that a success of the 2 timelines thing. I would consider that still pure luck, but whatever.
Man,
fuck
if they
it.
get lucky twice in a row, that'd be the funniest thing in the world. If Joe Lacob pisses on our grave and tells us to go fuck ourselves because they found another one, that'd be so funny.
Build him a statue then. He can build a statue.
There you go. Build himself a statue. If you're still here, I want you to comment what you think the worst moment or the biggest mistake the Warriors made in the last 5 years to get here. Comment. Tell us what you think it is. Yeah, man. We'll see you in a few more days for the next episode.
Adios.